Pleasant good evening to everyone who is joining us this evening for this evening session. Today is the 27th of January, 2024. And this evening session, we're going to be dealing with personal branding. And back in I think about a year or so ago, we did the same very training on personal branding, but we want to do an in-depth look at personal branding with the knowledge of artificial intelligence and other dynamics that are currently with us at this era that we're going through. So get ready, prepare yourself for this evening session. This evening session is not a discussion only, but it is going to be a full PowerPoint presentation training, and it will be part one of three parts each Saturday. So take your notes and let's jump right into this evening's class on personal branding. And then, of course, we will look into the discussion from this evening's session. Thank you so very much, and let's just get the presentation ready to go for this evening. Good evening, Pretty Ukana. Good evening to you, Jail and Mafu. Present. Good evening to all of you who have joined with us, and those who have their cameras on, and those who don't have their cameras on. But let's jump straight in to this evening's class and go forward. Personal branding. Just I'm just setting up my screen so that I could see everything that I need to see the way I need to see it. Let's just get my screens all together. That's there. That's there. All right. So let's get into just get into the evening session. Oops. It's okay. It's okay, Patty. Come. Just one second. I just got rebuked. I just got rebuked for the class that I got. Just one second. Her Excellency is going to be joining us for the discussions this evening. So we're in for. Here we go. Is that the correct one? That's the correct one. There. Is that it? All right. So let me see how we're gonna restore this and put this here, and then we're gonna put this one here. It's good. All right. All right. So this evening session, I'm excited about this evening. Her Excellency First Lady and myself, we were putting this evening's session together because we think that as the new year begins, the first thing we look at is ourselves as individuals, and then we now have to look at ourselves as a product, meaning that we are the brand. And I want to go in depth with it with this evening's PowerPoint presentation. All right. So let's jump straight in to this evening session as we go into personal branding. Confirm for me, if you may, that you could see my screen so that I know everybody's okay. Can you guys see the screen all right? Everything's okay. All right. Let me just put this here on this side and put this Here we go. All right, personal branding. As we go into looking at personal branding, I want to reiterate some very, very important points. I am the brand. That is very important to note. I am the brand. You are the brand as an individual. Whatever it is we're dealing with, I want you to focus on yourself as the brand because it is you who's carrying either yourself, your product, or your services to the market. So that's the first point that is very important. I am the brand. I am the brand personal branding. Why have I labeled this class this evening? I am the brand personal branding. It is critical. Branding is product, or it could be in light of whatever you're doing, and you put a label on it. And the label is all defined by the design, by the artist, by the company. All of these things go into labeling branding. And remember last class, we talked about branding and labeling a little bit. So we're going to go much deeper into this aspect of personal brand and you being the brand. Life is an interview. Life is an interview. A lot of you might think sometimes when you get a job offer or when something is open to you that it's new and you are now thought of or you're just available. I want to suggest to you that you're being watched. All of you are being watched. You're being watched by companies, you're being watched by governments, you're being watched by your council, you're being watched by there are a number of individuals that are watching you. When you go to your supermarket, your neighbors, they see you. You are being watched and observed your whole life. When you have conversations, there are people that just talk to you, you think it's randomly, you're being watched, you're being observed. Notes are being taken about you, your character, your behavior, your attitude. Your whole life from now till we reach to the tomb is going to be an interview. Every opportunity, every situation is basically an interview. And I want to use this analogy to remove the fear of being interviewed. A lot of people get afraid of going to interviews or going to meetings where they're discussing opportunities, but I want to take away that fear from you. When you speak to a little child or an elder, anywhere that you're having a conversation, you're being interviewed. You're being interviewed for the knowledge. You're being interviewed for the know-how. You're being interviewed for the description that the person wants from you, but it's an interview. Your whole life is an interview. And I can guarantee if you sit back and you look at your day to day, you're going to see so many encounters that you've had. All of those encounters that you had today are interviews. All of them got some very, very important points about you as a brand, as an individual throughout that interview today, yesterday, and the days that have passed on. And I'm not talking about a job interview. I'm talking about the life experiences, the relationships, the communications that you've had that have interviewed you. Let's look at this simple slide that says pre-interview. If you live in a metropolitan city like us that live in London, or those who are in Manchester or in different regions of the globe, we know this thing called Big Brother. Cameras are on you all the time. You purchase a car, you're driving, cameras are watching your car, your license, how you drive on the road, how you carry yourself. Every single thing is being observed about us. Interestingly, our social media, everything is being observed about us. Why am I bringing this point? I'm bringing this point because I want you to be mindful of where people go to gather information about you, depending on where you're looking for your next opportunity. If you're looking for a job in government, government has a lot of data on you. Your passport, your birth certificate, your driver's license, all of these documents are part of interview documents that govern who you are. Your criminal record, or if you have one, your parking tickets, your fines, everything is a pre-interview. It is being watched about you. If you're going to be asked to do a visa, they're going to ask you about your history. If you're doing a visa, we want to know about your history. What was your background like? Who are you associated? All of these things are important. Now, every interaction is an opportunity. Let's look at the side now of opportunity. Casual conversations you have are opportunities. Opportunities for you to promote your brand, your business, your idea, what you want to do, where you want to go. Social media. We're going to do a separate one on social media because social media covers a wide spectrum. But social media is very important because of artificial intelligence and also because of getting to know you and know you better. So your social media interaction is also very key to you being successful as you develop as an individual. Jeff Bezos made a statement that personal brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. When you leave the room, your personal brand is what people say about you. How often have you walked into a room and you've had conversations or discussions, and then you left the room and you're with somebody else? And you hear what they say about the lecturer or the person that was sat next to you or somebody that was in the meeting. That's your personal brand right there. That's what people think about you. That's how people view you. It doesn't matter what anybody sits in front of you and how they talk in front of you. To be quite honest with you, I've discovered over the years that that's the least relevant attribute that you have. That's the least relevant part of your character that is critical. Why is that the least relevant part? It's because people form an opinion based on what they hear. They form an opinion based on how they feel, based on what their day was like, based on the content that you're bringing to the table. They form an opinion. And that opinion is going to be left on you when they walk away from you. Oh, I think Dr. Steele is an interesting character. Oh, I like Dr. Ewers. I see him quite often. There's an opinion that is being formed. And the best thing that you could do about your brand is to follow up. What do I mean by follow up? It's good to get feedback from colleagues, friends, partners, associates about how have I done? What do you think about me? Talk to me. His Excellency Dr. Hughes is Chief of Protocol, and I use him as a sounding board for how did that grab you, Your Excellency? What did you feel? How did you feel about that particular point that I made? How did I come across? It's important because when you leave a room, you want to understand what impact did you make? Was it a positive impact or was it a negative impact? Did you leave a good report or a bad report? Very, very important. Again, who better than somebody like Jeff Bezos who can assure you, say, personal branding is what people see about you when you leave the room. I wonder what his staff think of him. Do they think he's pushy? Do they think he's arrogant? I think some people have labeled him as arrogant. Know it all? How do you view yourself? And how do you think people view you? That's important. How do you think people view you? I ask you that question for you to check yourself. How do you think people are viewing you, looking at you, thinking about you, and making decisions about you? So let's look at some key points about your personal brand. Your brand conveys your image. And there's a specific reason why I highlighted your. I highlighted your because it is the image that you are presenting. Your perspective, the way you see it, the way you're presenting it, it's your image. What are some of the attributes of your image? How you carry yourself, how when I was doing this presentation, there's some things that I was saying, you don't say these things. But the truth is, if you don't say these things, sometimes people take them for granted. And here's some things that are very important when we do our ambassadorial training. As ambassadors, these are some things that you have to go through about your image. How do you look? This is the distance. How do you look when you're coming to a person, when you're walking through town or when you're going to a meeting? How do you look? Your image. What can I see? Is your hair well groomed? Are your clothes well pressed and presented? Are you well attired? Are you well cladded? How do you look when you're coming to me? This is important. It's critical. But then I want to ask you another question. How do you smell? How do you smell? You see, the reason why I'm going to mention this one, and a lot of people might give me stick, Reverend, you shouldn't mention that or shouldn't mention this, but it's critical. It is very important. When you show up in a meeting, you want to be pleasant. You want to make sure that you're carrying yourself and you smell pleasant. Personal cleanliness is a part of your image and your branding. And a lot of times, individuals, when they go through all of these training, they neglect this aspect because they think every person should know how to clean themselves and look after themselves as it's important. But do you want the truth? I am a professional. And I have been in numerous meetings where I was offended at the appearance of some individuals. Their appearance was offensive. They did not cater to how they presented themselves, and it was offensive. How many of you have ever been someplace and you're in a professional environment where you think people should know how to have a shower, how to brush their teeth, how to clean themselves, and you're eating finger foods? Come on, somebody. Let's have this discussion as adults. Let's have this discussion as adults. The reason why I'm looking at this personal branding so critical at this aspect of our development is because it's important. Have you ever been to a tea party where they're serving, cocktails, and you look at somebody that is dipping from the same place that you just dipped from, and their fingernails are dirty with all of the dirt in their fingernails, their hands are not clean? Come on, somebody. I'm talking to you because I want you to be mindful of these things. I don't want you to say, oh, I show up and somebody comes and see you as a part of the group and they're offended at you because nobody sought to tell you personal cleanliness is important as you elevate your status. People look at how you treat yourself, how you carry yourself as critical and important. How you smell. Invest in a nice deodorant or a nice perfume. And if you're a person that has sensitive skin that you cannot carry those things, make sure you have a good shower with a good soap. But I want you in the class, so Steve, and you who are listening to this broadcast and this training to take into consideration your personal cleanliness because it's all a part of your image. And it's important. Your brand conveys that image. Wow, he looks after his fingers. Do you clip your toenails and make sure your toenails look nice? Come on, I'm talking to us. Your fingernails, you clean your ears and make sure your ears are looking nice. I get annoyed when I look at the camera and see my nose here sticking out too long. You wanna make sure they're clipped. Come on, somebody. Personal branding. Your brand conveys your message. Let me explain what I just shared in a nutshell to a degree. When you show up and somebody you smell nice, you say, wow. You already feel pleasant around the person because of how they smell. When you look at them and you realize they pay attention to little details like their fingernails. That's why the ladies go and get their nails done and their toes done. Because it's their personal image. But your message that you bring is going to be conveyed in a nice manner. It is already welcoming you. You look nice. You look pleasant. You're welcome. Let's converse. Tell me what you want to talk to me about. Could you imagine just showing up and wanting to tell somebody about products you're selling? I do food. And they see that you're unkept. They look at you and your hands unkept. They said, no. You shouldn't be doing food. You should be doing construction. If you show up to do a construction job looking like this, then you'll be fine. I'm talking to us. Represent your brand. It's critical. Your brand determines your advantage. What does that mean? When you show up the right way, branded the right way, it conveys or it determines your advantage. I've known individuals who went to get jobs and they had to delight themselves, or they had to reduce their status so that individuals would say, okay, I can look at you. Because when individuals saw who they were, they says, my God, I can't afford you. Come on, somebody. Wave at me if that's a good feeling. How do you feel when somebody looks at you and they determine that your worth based on how you carry yourself, based on how you showed up? They says, I can't afford you. That's a good thing. That's a positive thing. If you show up for a job and somebody sees you showing up, and come on, I'm having a laugh with you for this one, but if you show up, you dressed in an Armani suit and nice shoes, and you show up for a job interview, and the person you're looking for an executive job, and the person sees you, they're going to say, ooh, can't pay this one the rookie money, boy. This one is high maintenance. Come on, somebody. Whatever I'm getting, you get what I'm saying. They're going to look at you and they're going to realize, yeah, this one knows how to dress. Whew. Yeah, I know. I see his CV and his CV looks good. He's educated and he's qualified. But now he shows up, he's showing up and he's telling me, "Oh, if you want me, bro, you gotta pay for me." That education that you see in that CV, they don't just come with qualifications from university, but now I come and I show up and look at how I'm dressed. Look at how I'm carrying myself. And you're gonna determine for yourself what is my worth from what you see. You're gonna determine it. But let me ask another question on the opposite side of that coin. If you show up for an executive job and you're wearing a pair of slippers, come on, you've got the CV, you've got the degrees, it's there. You went to university, it's there. And you show up in a pair of slippers and a normal jeans or normal short pants and a shirt, guess what's going to happen? There's some CEOs that are going to smile. Well, guess why they're smiling? Woo! I like the CV. I like the qualifications, but I don't have to pay this one very much. This one look like low maintenance. Come on, somebody. You see, your CV is going to present a part of you. But when they're looking, they were watching the camera while you showed up. And they saw that you came in by the bus or you're walking. They say, yeah, there's a low maintenance one. We don't have to pay this one too much. But the qualifications, we could use these qualifications because they're good. But when they look outside and if they saw you showing up in a nice Mercedes car, borrow daddy's car, daddy, can I borrow your car? And you show up in a Mercedes car. They're judging you. They're looking at you. And they're determining your competitive edge or the advantage that you have on those they're interviewing. All right? So I want you to look at this aspect of your personal branding as critical, as important. Don't belittle it. Don't be offended when somebody tells you that is one of your mentors or one of your teachers or somebody that cares about you. You need to do something with your smell, your odor. You need to do something about it. Don't be offended. They mean you well. There are people who smell you and they don't come around you because you don't smell pleasant. They don't mean you well. They're just going to talk about you when they go out of the room. Oh my God! Did you see? Did you smell that person? That's what they will say when you go out of the room. And for you who are mentors, don't be shy to pull somebody aside and says, "Can I speak with you? I think you need to pay attention to your appearance." Don't be offended to do it to somebody that you love and care about. Please. Because if you go into a meeting with them, the thing that offends you about them is going to offend others as well. And you would have just created an environment where they could have been well prepared, but you, because of your timidity or you don't want to be honest with your friend, and you leave them stranded. And by the way, I'm saying your friend. Don't go rebuking strangers and telling strangers things if you don't know them. Please, but your friend. Somebody that trusts you and respects you. All right? Let's go on. How do you differentiate yourself? What makes you unique? There's the light bulb is on in that little thing there. But how do you, as an individual, stand out? How do you? What is it that you do that stands out from the rest of the crowd? Stands out from everybody else? It's important. It is important because it is that thing that gives you your value. It is that thing that causes individuals to like you. How do you stand out? But again, it might be that thing that causes individuals not to like you. or cause individuals not to want to be around you. There are lots of things that I look at in light of myself as an individual. And recently I've been discovering a lot of things about myself as you evaluate over the years. How do you differentiate yourself? I have some attributes that I've discovered that are, well, they're not good or they're not bad. They're just that. How many of you get what I'm saying? There's some things about you that they're not good, they're not bad, they're just you. And you just have to appreciate them. Some of them you might need to change, some of them you might need to tweak, some of them you might need to redefine. But there are things that cause you to be recognized as different. Because of the circle that I have raised up myself in among, the people that I raised up among, all leaders. I think it's very unfortunate sometimes to be just among leaders all the time. It's unfortunate. The reason why it's unfortunate to be among leaders all the time is because you develop a mindset, a way of looking at life, a way of behaving, a way of carrying yourself. And you find that as you get older, it's very difficult to fit into other circles. It's very difficult. And when you get a free time or free moment and you want to fit in other circles, it just doesn't work. I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm 52 years old, and I wish that I had done a lot of things different in my coming up. I wish I did. And what do I mean by that? To help you as you develop your brand. What do I mean by that? What I mean is striking a balance. How many of you know there needs to be a balance of play, party, joking, and then work, serious, commit? You know what I mean? There needs to be a balance. You need to be able to fit in most areas of life. You will never find an environment that's just going to be professionals all the time. Because what happens is when you find yourself amongst family and loved ones, it's difficult. It is very difficult when you have trained your mind, your character, yourself to be a professional. It is very, very difficult. After 40 years and 45 and going into 50 and getting older, it is very difficult to tolerate a lot of things. And that's one of the things for me that I say I wish that I had spent more time maybe in sports. I don't play any sports. I used to play volleyball. I don't like football, but I used to play volleyball. And football was a sport I used to watch a lot. But I'm not into football and volleyball and basketball or any sport at the moment. I'm not. I'm so focused on professional development, leadership, mentoring, helping others, strengthening others. I'm so focused on it that unfortunately, and I use the term unfortunately because it is unfortunate. Unfortunately, there's an aspect of me that I have to start looking at developing at this age. But those of you who are listening to this training, this mentoring session on personal branding, I want you to be a well-rounded individual. Don't get too serious where you can't have a joke and a laugh. And just by the way, I'm a very practical joker in the right circles. I do have a good laugh. Dr. Ewers and myself, one of the things that I will always laugh about is sharing a hotel in Vienna, Austria. Dr. Chris, and some of the experiences that we've had, some of the comical experiences that we shared, the laughter, my goodness. And then some of the travels that you go on and the things you've experienced while you're on those travels, you could have a light moment. You could laugh. Some people are too professional to laugh. They're too stuck up. Well, no, 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 no. I don't want to use the word stuck up. Stuck up is the wrong word. I don't think stuck up is the right word. I think they are too set in their structure to enjoy a good moment. So how do you differentiate yourself is important. Because one of the things about differentiate could also be isolate. How do you isolate yourself from everybody else? When you go out to an event, I don't drink alcohol. I'm not an alcohol drinker. And every time I go out, there's an unusual thing that happens. Everybody says, what are you having? I'm always having an orange juice or a pina colada, virgin colada. Because I don't drink alcohol. I stand out. Are you having one of these? Are you having this from the same bottle of wine? No, I can't drink from the same bottle of wine because I don't drink alcohol. So I differentiate myself. I stand out. So let's go on to the next slide. What is your unique proposition, which is also known as a unique selling proposition? It tells us what you have to offer. What are your skills? You see, I was talking earlier about sports. In sports, you have skills. I can play golf. I can play volleyball. I can play cricket. I can play all of those sports. I don't play any of them at this current moment, but I'm capable, I'm able. What are your skills? But let's now look at corporate skills for your vocation. Are you a people's person? Are you a good communicator? Do you communicate well with individuals? What are your people's skills? Do you like to take notes? Are you a good secretary or a person who would use to take the minutes for an event? Are you good at that? Are you good at relaying information? Are you a good messenger? Are you a good mentor? You've been to university, you've been to college, you've got your degrees, you've got your qualifications. What are you good at? What are your skills? What abilities do you have? Can you drive really good? All of these are important selling points. His Excellency, Dr. Ewers, Dr. Comfort, we're at that age where I think life is different for us at this age because I think a lot of us are looking at opportunities that we have missed in some cases. Wow, if I knew then what I know now, I would have done this or I would have done that because I would have been at a different place. If I understood this the way that I understand it now, I would be responding differently. So at this age in our lives, we find that we're responding different. What are the abilities that you have as an individual that are useful right now? What are those abilities? But then it's also made up of your interests and your values. What are some of the values that you have? I want you to be critically looking at those values because some of the values we have are nothing to do with religion. They're nothing to do with political party. They're nothing to do with the color of our skin sometimes. But some of our values are based on as you get older, you discover behavioral patterns and traits that are advantageous. They will serve you better. as you proceed through life, and you adopt them. You adopt those values that make sense. There were a lot of values that I held that were redefined as I got older because I saw a bigger picture. How many of you get what I'm trying to say? I want to convey that point very critically. The values that you have always need to be redefined as you gain more knowledge, more exposure, more wisdom, more enlightenment. You cannot walk through life with one value and decide, oh, I will never change my value on this, because it will sometimes marginalize you. If you want to be marginalized or ostracized in some cases, then it's fine. If you don't mind the circle that you have and you just want to stay in that little box, then those values that you hold will be held by those in that box with you. And that's important to understand. If you're going to be a globally minded person, a global citizen, you're going to have to constantly be redefining your values. Am I trying to say you compromise your behavior, you compromise your attitude? That's not what I said. That's not what I said. I said redefining your values. For example, a lot of individuals that look at me, I remember when I was younger, I only had Christian friends. Forgive me for being honest. Forgive me. I only had Christian friends when I was coming up. I only hang out with Christians, people that were serving God and they were Bible believers, and I separated myself from other people in light of wanting to be a man of God, to just walk in that character. Did it serve me well? Yes, it did. It served me well because I learned how to behave. I learned how to set boundaries and parameters and restrictions. It served me well. But as you get older, you discover something. The world is bigger than your religious philosophy. There's a whole lot more to it than just our Christianity. There's a whole lot more. And I started to focus on my relationship with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Is personal. It doesn't have to be anybody's business or anybody's, how many of you know sometimes we wear our Christianity on our shoulder, and everybody that sees us that are not Christians, they don't want us to be around them. They don't want to be around us because we walk with this holier than anybody else mentality or ear about us, not deliberately, but by reason of how we show up. How many of you know if you show up to a family event and you have your suit and your Bible and your collar on because you're a reverend, the family, you don't have to say you're a reverend. You don't have to say anything. The minute that you show up dressed like this, everybody's going to start to think they're going to be walking into a confessional box. Come on, somebody. I know you're listening to this today, and I really want you to grasp it. But your values are going to define what happens to you, and when you leave the room, what people say about you. How do people feel when you're around? Do people feel judged because you're a Christian or because you're a leader? Do people feel uncomfortable? Do you make people feel uncomfortable? Not deliberately. Remember we talked earlier in the other attributes up there in the last slide? We talked about the branding. The branding is critical. So when you show up, the brand is going to tell everybody what to expect from you. Your values. The people are going to judge you and treat you according to your values. You're going to ask the question, why didn't you invite me to the family gathering? Well, we didn't invite you because, we know we were going to be drinking and we were going to be partying and we were not going to be listening to gospel music. So we didn't invite you. Come on. But I'm family too. No, you're not. You separated yourself from the family. You're not family. You're a totally different brand. You're a different product. You don't fit into this circle. You do not fit in. Come on, somebody. I'm talking about us being globally relevant. That's what I'm creating and who I'm building in the class of Steele. Then you show up and you show up as a Muslim. Everybody says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I know you're a Muslim, so I didn't invite you." How are you branded? What are the values that you carry? Have you refined those values? That you're able to love those who are different than you and they respect and value you just because you're such a nice person. I have so many friends and people around the world now that are not Christians and they respect me, they value me, they listen to me because they see that I am a global citizen. I'm somebody you can communicate with. I'm somebody that you could develop and grow with. Did I say that I've stopped being a Christian? No. Did I say that I've stopped loving and serving my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ as a minister? No. Did I say that I have stopped praying? No. So am I trying to convert you to changing your values to when you become something that you are not? No. That's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm teaching. What we're teaching is you need to be in an environment where you recognize you are a global citizen. And if you're going to get involved in government, you have to be a team player in government. If you're going to get involved in a corporation is going to be made up of different opinions and different values and different views. And if you're going to fit into that environment, you have to redefine your values. And one thing that a lot of youngsters don't get taught, which I never was taught, is how to redefine my values. I did not understand the balance between being a sold out Christian, but being a sold out employee in a company that has people that are not Christians. You know what I'm trying to say? I would always stick out like a sore thumb sometimes in those environments. So it is critical to redefine your values if you're going to be a global citizen. If you're going to be prepared to impact in this generation and generations to come and leave a legacy, it's going to be different. It's going to be necessary. But then your personality. What type of personality do you have? I I find that now in the last 15 to 20 years of my life, I find that I like me a lot more. What do I mean by I like me a lot more? I like me because I'm not defined by what you think about me any longer. I'm defined by how I treat people. I'm defined by how I respect people. I'm defined by how I live my life as an individual. And if His Excellency Dr. Ewers or Dr. Comfort or any of the elders or those that I take counsel and advice from as a young man coming up, if any of those individuals that I've just mentioned or those outside of that remit that are my mentors say to me, Michael, I don't like this. The first thing I'm going to do is give it the litmus test. Is it something that I am opposed to, or is it something that I need to redefine in my personality? Is it something that I don't care if you like it or not, I apologize? How many of you know there are things about your character that you need to have those things that you're not interested in how somebody feels about it? There's some things that you need to carry that it's not important how somebody feels about those particular things, like your religion. How somebody feels about my religion is none of my business. I don't care how you feel about the fact that I'm a Christian. That's irrelevant, my friend. That's the decision that I've made. But if you say to me, Michael, I don't like the way you treated that person. Come on, somebody. That's something that you look at and redefine. How do I treat people? How did I behave? How did I carry myself? Those are important things to redefine. Your personality. Are you teachable? Are you somebody that individuals can sit down and have a genuine conversation and teach you things that you might need to know? Are you teachable? Are you somebody that is jovial, that people could have a laugh with you? This is all about your personality. Your personal. It's nothing to do with the group. Group settings are different because in a group it's made up of personalities. And all of those personalities are different. What is yours? What's unique about you? Let's go on. So let's look at some key elements of a personal brand. And this is my final slide for today. Some key elements. All right. Key elements of a personal brand. Authenticity. Are you the only you there is in the package? Are you authentic? Or are you trying to be somebody else? Ask yourself the question. I want you to look at yourself and ask that question. Am I authentic? Am I authentic? Or am I trying to be my pastor? Come on, somebody. Or am I trying to be my political leader? Or am I trying to be my actor friend that I like his movies? Am I trying to be like him? Or am I trying to be like my best friend? Am I authentic? Am I me? Am I trying to fit into somebody else's mold or model, or am I developing me to be the best me that I can be? What I will say that I have found out is I am me. This is what I have personally found out. I am me. Michael Steele is unique. I am very, very me. I have a mind of my own, and I choose who I listen to. Come on, somebody. I choose who I listen to. Nobody dictates to me beyond my personal desire or decisions. Nobody. But my wife. Yes, is it not yours? But the first lady. But you have to be unique. Are you authentic? Do you stick to your guns? Do you honor the decisions that you make? Are you you? This is important. Authentic you. Are you credible? Now, credibility is very, very interesting. I've discovered something very important that I want to mention about credibility. Credibility has so many different attributes tied to it that sometimes we can be labeled as not credible when a lot of times external factors to ourselves create an environment where we can be discredited. How many of you get what I just said and understood what I'm saying? Because I want you to be clear about credibility. I see you, I can see you pretty. So I want you to be clear about this thing about credibility. All right? The credibility that you are capable of is your words. What you say you will do. Your words. Who you say you are. The behavior, your attitude, who you say you are. Now there's some external factors to credibility. What you say you will do. How many of you know that sometimes what you say you will do have factors external to you? For example, is tomorrow going to be a day that I'm going to be in good health and strong and able to do something? And if tomorrow I'm not able to do it, and I say I can't do it. I know I told you yesterday I was going to do it, but I don't feel well today and I'm unable to do it. Now somebody might look and say, you're not credible. Okay? But you give an explanation and they discover, okay, in the explanation it's reasonable. But then the next situation again, the same thing happens, and you find that you're constantly making excuses. How many of you get what I'm saying? Which breaks down your credibility. Because people then stop taking you serious. Because everything you say you're going to do, you change. And then people stop taking you serious. So your credibility is compromised. But then there's the credibility in light of some external factors that depend on other things. I will do this for you if. How many of you know that there's some things you will do if this happens or if that happens? But the unfortunate thing is that when we are sharing those points, we do not discuss the ifs. We do not discuss the I will do this if. And what happens is a lot of times when the if doesn't happen, because we said, I'm going to do this for you tomorrow, and the if didn't happen, then we become labeled as not credible. Because we can't do what we said we were going to do. And unfortunately, I have found myself in life in a lot of situations where I could be labeled as not credible because of external factors. But for your own personal brand, you must be able to differentiate between those things that are external to you and those things that are within your power to harness. And that's where the credibility we're discussing lies. The things that you have the power to harness and you're able to deliver on to prove that you are a credible person. Consistency. When I met my dad, he said something to me. And when I say when I met my dad when I was 27 years old. I was an adult when I met my father. He said something to me. He said, Michael, one thing you have to be, son, is consistent. Stick to one thing and work it. Be consistent at what you do. Life has not dealt a lot of us a fair shot at being consistent. A lot of us have had opportunities and circumstances where we had to keep changing. How many of you get what I'm saying? You have to keep redefining. You have to keep changing to fit in. The COVID came, and a lot of people became inconsistent because of COVID. How many of you get world financial circumstances change and people had to change their jobs. People have to change what they were doing and the consistency changed. But here's something that's critical. Your personal brand needs to be consistent. You need to be consistent with how you carry yourself, how you behave, how you approach situations. You need to be consistent in those dynamics. Reliability. That's another key attribute that you need to maintain reliability as an individual. You need to be reliable. People need to be able to look and say, I know that if he says or she says they're going to show up, they will show up. That is what makes you stand out in life. You're reliable. It doesn't matter what anybody think. It doesn't matter who else is reliable. It doesn't matter who else shows up. What is important is that I, Michael, am reliable. You could rely on me. That's important. Next thing is targeted. In light of your brand, you have to target something. Why do I have this brand? I'm going to be closing in the next 3 to 5 minutes. I'll be closing. It will be 6:15, and these classes only go on for 1 hour. So then we will jump into the discussion section, and then we will be doing part 2 next Saturday. Will be part 2. But targeted. Why are you branding yourself this way? Where are you going? What's the target that you're aiming at? What's the vocation? What's the job? What's the opportunity? What is it that you are going after that makes you brand yourself in this manner? Why do you dress in a jeans and a polo t-shirt and a pair of sneakers? Or why do you carry yourself in a suit and tie and a well-clad environment, professional environment? Where are you going? What's the target? That's important to know. Because if you brand yourself, but you don't know where you're going, then you're going to show up unprepared. If I'm going to a chill event with His Excellency Dr. Ewers, where we're going to go together and sit down and play a game of pool or do some bowling together, Dr. Ewers, you and I need to do that again. It's necessary. We need to, go and play a game of pool and drink an orange juice and Sprite together. We need to do that. But if I'm going to go and do that with Dr. Ewers, and I show up in this suit and my tie, and this Dr. Ewers is going to say, Dr. Steele, what is wrong with you? Where are you going? What is this? You have to know where you're going, where you targeting, where you're going, so that you show up with the right branding, packaged the right way. And the last point is communicable. You must be able to communicate your brand. You have to. You have to tell people and give an answer to those who want to know, why do you stand for what you stand for? What is it that you are doing and why you are doing it? You must be able to communicate it, because in being able to communicate your brand, individuals are going to be more capable of making a decision on if they're going to stick with you, if they're going to walk with you, or if they're not going to be sticking with you. And the time is now 6:15, and you know that, as I mentioned, I'm trying to stick to our brand in the class of Steele. And part 2 will be coming next Saturday. And in part 2, we're going to be looking at 12 ways to own and hone your personal brand. And that's going to be the continuation of this particular series that we've started on personal branding. With that being said, thank you so very much for listening in on this session on personal branding. And we are going to, I think I missed the most important screen, which is our final screen for personal branding. And now we will jump into the discussion and the question session for this evening's class of Steele. We will stop the recording here. If you are listening to this, we want you to jump in and make sure that you get Part 2, 12 Ways to Own and Hone Your Personal Branding. I'm His Excellency Dr. Michael Steele, and we are going to close this broadcast right here and jump straight into the discussion session in the class of Steele. Thank you for being with us this evening.